My wife smiled as she handed me our newborn son, never imagining that years later, one DNA test would destroy every lie she had built our marriage on. My name is Noah. I'm 40 years old, and I live in Chicago, Illinois. If someone had told me 10 years ago that the happiest day of my life would eventually become the reason my entire world collapsed, I would have laughed in their face. Back then, life felt perfect. I was the CEO of a technology company in downtown Chicago. The business kept me busy almost every day, but I loved what I did. My company had grown from a tiny startup with only 6 employees into a corporation with more than 1,000 people working under me. Money was never something I worried about, but unlike many successful CEOs, I never enjoyed showing off. I drove a simple SUV instead of an exotic sports car. I wore affordable clothes instead of designer suits. I preferred quiet dinners over expensive parties. Most people who met me for the first time had no idea I owned the company. And honestly, I liked it that way. I believed people should love you because of who you are, not because of what you own. That belief led me to the biggest mistake of my life. 5 years earlier, I met Angela Morgan at a charity fundraising event near Navy Pier. She walked into the ballroom wearing a simple black dress that somehow caught everyone's attention. She was confident, funny, and incredibly charming. Every conversation with her felt effortless. At the end of the evening, she smiled and said, "I've never met someone like you before." I smiled back. I was about to say the same thing. That was the beginning of our story. Over the next year, we spent nearly every weekend together. Coffee dates, long walks along Lake Michigan, road trips to Wisconsin, movie nights at home. Everything felt natural. Angela often told me she admired how humble I was. "You don't act like a millionaire," she once laughed. "I don't want people treating me differently," I replied. She looked into my eyes. "That's one of the reasons I fell in love with you." Looking back now, I often wonder whether those words were ever true, or whether they were simply the first lie I believed. A year later, I proposed. She said yes without hesitation. Our wedding wasn't extravagant, just close family, a few friends, and the people who genuinely cared about us. Standing at the altar, I truly believed I had found the woman I would grow old with. For the first year of our marriage, everything seemed perfect, at least on the surface. Angela decorated our home beautifully. She always greeted me with a smile after work. We planned vacations together, talked about building a family, dreamed about the future. But there was one person who was always around: Ryan Carter. Angela introduced him as her college friend. "He helped me through some difficult times years ago," she explained. Ryan was completely different from me. Tall, stylish, always wearing expensive designer clothes, driving a bright red Porsche. He had the kind of confidence that naturally attracted attention. The first time we met, he smiled and shook my hand. "So you're the famous Noah." I laughed. "I don't know about famous." Angela smiled between us. "You two are going to get along." And at first, we actually did. Ryan joined us for dinners, birthday celebrations, holiday parties. Sometimes he'd even stop by our house without calling first. I never questioned it. Why would I? He was my wife's oldest friend. Or at least, that's what she wanted me to believe. As my company expanded, my responsibilities increased. Some weeks I worked 12 or 13 hours a day. I trusted Angela completely. If she told me she was having lunch with friends, I believed her. If she said she was shopping, I believed her. If she said Ryan had stopped by to help fix something around the house, I believed that too. Trust is a beautiful thing, until it's given to the wrong person. One evening, after an exhausting week at work, I came home carrying Angela's favorite flowers. The house was unusually quiet. She was sitting on the couch holding a small white envelope. When she saw me, tears filled her eyes. For a split second, I panicked. "Angela, what's wrong?" She stood up slowly, then placed my hand on her stomach. "I'm pregnant." The world seemed to stop. I stared at her, then at the envelope. Positive. I wrapped my arms around her so tightly that she laughed. "We're going to be parents," I whispered. She nodded. Yes. That night became one of the happiest nights of my life. We stayed awake until almost 3 in the morning talking about baby names. If it was a girl, Emma. If it was a boy, Kian. For the next 9 months, I did everything I could to make Angela comfortable. I attended every doctor's appointment, read parenting books, built the nursery with my own hands, canceled business trips whenever she needed me. Nothing mattered more than becoming a father. Finally, the day arrived. I was standing beside Angela in the delivery room when our son entered the world. The nurse gently placed him in Angela's arms. She looked at him with tears of joy. Then she turned toward me. She smiled and carefully placed our newborn son into my hands. "This is your son," she whispered. I looked down at the tiny little face staring back at me, his fingers wrapped around mine. At that exact moment, I felt something I had never experienced before. Pure, unconditional love. We named him Kian. From that day forward, my life revolved around him. Every morning before work, I kissed his forehead. Every evening, I rushed home just to hear him laugh. When he took his first steps, I was there. When he spoke his first word, I cried. His first baseball glove, his first bicycle, his first day of preschool. I never missed a single milestone. People constantly told me, "You're an incredible father." Those words meant everything to me, because I had promised myself that my son would always know how deeply he was loved. As the years passed, life settled into a comfortable routine. Angela stayed home more often. Ryan still visited from time to time. Nothing seemed unusual. Or maybe, I simply refused to see what was right in front of me. Sometimes I noticed Angela texting late at night. She would quickly lock her phone whenever I walked into the room. I told myself I was imagining things. Other times Ryan somehow knew exactly when I was traveling for business. Again, I ignored it. Love has a strange way of silencing common sense. 5 years passed. Kian had become the center of my universe. Then, everything changed. One rainy Friday evening, after leaving a board meeting downtown, I was driving home along Lakeshore Drive when a pickup truck lost control on the wet road. I barely had time to react. The sound of twisting metal echoed through the night. Then, darkness. I had no idea that surviving that accident would lead me to a truth far more painful than the crash itself. Because a few days later, a doctor would walk into my hospital room and say 7 words that would destroy everything I believed about my family. "Mr. Noah, you were never able to father children." For a few seconds, I honestly thought the doctor had confused my medical records with someone else's. I forced a nervous laugh. "I think you've got the wrong patient." The doctor didn't smile. He quietly opened my file and placed several laboratory reports on the table. "We repeated the tests twice, Mr. Noah. There is no mistake." He paused before continuing. "You were born with a rare medical condition. Based on every test we've performed, you have never been able to biologically father a child." My heart started pounding. "But I have a 5-year-old son." The doctor looked genuinely sorry. "I'm only telling you what the medical evidence shows. I recommend speaking with a fertility specialist after you've recovered." Then he quietly walked out of the room. I sat there for what felt like hours. The machines beside my bed continued beeping. Nurses walked past my room. Life outside continued as if nothing had happened. But inside, my entire world had stopped. One thought kept repeating in my head. If I can't have children, then whose son have I been raising? I hated myself for thinking it. Angela was my wife, the woman I had loved with all my heart. There had to be another explanation. Maybe the tests were wrong. Maybe there had been a miracle. Maybe anything. When I was discharged from the hospital, Angela wrapped her arms around me. "I was so scared," she whispered. "I thought I was going to lose you." For the first time in our marriage, her hug felt different. Not because she had changed, because I had. That night, while Angela slept peacefully beside me, I couldn't close my eyes. I kept replaying every memory from the past 5 years. Ryan's unexpected visits, the late-night text messages, the way Angela always seemed nervous whenever I came home early, The signs had always been there. I had simply chosen not to see them. The next morning, I made a decision. I wasn't going to accuse Angela. Not without proof. If she was innocent, I would spend the rest of my life regretting my doubts. But if she wasn't, I needed the truth. 2 days later, I visited one of Chicago's most respected DNA laboratories. The receptionist greeted me politely. "How can we help you today?" I lowered my voice. "I need a confidential paternity test." She handed me the paperwork. Everything would remain completely private. No one, not even Angela, would know. Collecting the DNA sample from Kian nearly broke my heart. One Saturday morning, while we were brushing our teeth together, I gently used a cheek swab. He laughed. "What are you doing, Dad?" I forced a smile. "Just a little science experiment." He giggled. "Can I be a scientist too?" "You already are, buddy." As soon as he ran back to his room, I stood alone in the bathroom. My hands were shaking. I looked at myself in the mirror. "Please. I hope I'm wrong." The laboratory said the results would take 10 business days. Those 10 days felt longer than the previous 10 years. Every time Angela smiled at me, I wondered if it was real. Every time Ryan called, I noticed Angela walking into another room before answering. Every little detail suddenly meant something. One evening I casually asked, "Have you talked to Ryan lately?" Angela looked up from her phone. "Not really," she answered too quickly. "Why?" "No reason." She smiled. "You've been acting strange since the accident." "I've just been tired." That was the first lie I had ever told my wife. 10 days later, my phone rang. "Mr. Noah? This is Lakeview Genetics. Your results are ready." I drove there immediately. The receptionist handed me a sealed envelope. For several minutes, I simply stared at it. Part of me wanted to throw it away. As long as I didn't open it, there was still hope. Finally, I opened the envelope. My eyes immediately found the conclusion. Probability of paternity, 0%. I read it again, then again, and again. The words never changed. Kian was not my biological son. Tears rolled down my face, not because I loved him any less, but because someone I trusted more than anyone had stolen 5 years of truth from me. I sat in my car for almost an hour. People walked past. Traffic continued. Chicago kept moving. My world didn't. When I finally arrived home, Kian ran toward me. "Dad." He hugged my legs. "Can we play baseball after dinner?" I picked him up and held him tightly. "Of course, buddy." None of this was his fault. He was an innocent child. No DNA report could change the love I felt for him. That night, after Kian had fallen asleep, I walked into my home office and made another decision. The DNA test had answered one question, but many more remained. Who was Kian's biological father? How long had Angela been lying? Was the affair over, or had it never ended? The next morning, I contacted one of Chicago's most respected private investigators, a former homicide detective named Marcus Reed. When we met, I placed the DNA report on his desk. "I don't want assumptions," I said quietly. "I want the truth." Marcus looked at the report, then at me. "If your wife is hiding something, I'll find it." As I left his office, I realized something. The DNA report had shattered my heart. But I had a feeling the truth waiting for me was going to be far more painful than the test itself. Marcus Reed worked quietly. For the next 3 weeks, I lived 2 different lives. At home, I acted like nothing had changed. I kissed Angela goodbye every morning. We had dinner together. We laughed with Kian. I tucked him into bed every night. But inside, I was waiting for the truth. Then one Friday afternoon, Marcus called. "Mr. Noah, I have everything." I drove straight to his office. He placed a thick file on the desk. "I've been an investigator for 25 years, he said. "I've seen a lot of betrayal. But this one," he shook his head. "It started long before your wedding." My heart sank. Marcus opened the file. The first photo showed Angela and Ryan walking into a luxury hotel together. The second showed them leaving the next morning. Then came restaurant receipts, flight records, security footage, phone records, and hundreds of text messages. Their affair hadn't lasted a few months. It had lasted over 6 years. Marcus looked at me. There's something else. He slid another folder toward me. We obtained a DNA sample from Ryan through legally collected discarded material during surveillance and compared it with the paternity evidence. I slowly opened the report. The conclusion was impossible to ignore. Ryan was Kian's biological father. I closed my eyes. Every memory suddenly made sense. Every late-night text. Every unexpected visit. Every business trip. Every lie. The woman I had trusted with my life had been living a completely different one behind my back. I asked Marcus one question. Does Kian know? Marcus immediately shook his head. No. He's just a child. From everything I've seen, he genuinely believes you're his father. I nodded. He is not responsible for any of this. That night, I looked at Kian sleeping peacefully. I gently covered him with his blanket. Quietly, I whispered, "Nothing that happened is your fault." Then I walked into my home office and called my attorney. For the next month, we prepared everything. Every piece of evidence. Every financial record. Every legal document. I wasn't interested in humiliating Angela. I wanted the truth to speak for itself. A few weeks later, my company celebrated its 15th anniversary. More than 500 guests attended. Board members, investors, employees, friends. Angela arrived wearing the diamond necklace I had bought her for our anniversary. Ryan was there too, pretending to be nothing more than an old family friend. Neither of them knew what was about to happen. When it was time for my speech, I walked onto the stage. The audience applauded. I smiled politely. Before we celebrate another successful year, I'd like to share a personal story. The ballroom became quiet. I spent years believing I had the perfect family. I believed trust was enough. I was wrong. The lights dimmed. The giant screen behind me came to life. The first image appeared. Angela and Ryan entering a hotel together. Whispers filled the room. Then another photo. And another. Then came copies of hotel reservations. Private messages. Bank statements. Flight records. The whispers turned into complete silence. Angela's face lost all color. Ryan looked toward the exit. But it was too late. Finally, the last document appeared on the screen. The DNA report. Probability that Noah is the biological father, 0%. Then another report appeared. Ryan Carter confirmed as Kian's biological father. The room froze. Angela stood up, tears streaming down her face. Noah, please. I can explain. I looked at her calmly. You've had 5 years to tell me the truth. You chose a lie every single day. Ryan lowered his head. He couldn't even look at me. I continued, I loved Kian from the day he was born, and nothing will ever change that. But the two of you stole something from all of us. You stole the truth. I took a folder from the podium. Inside were divorce papers. I walked over to Angela and placed them in her hands. Our marriage ended the day you decided another man's child would carry my name. Without another word, I walked off the stage. The ballroom remained completely silent. Over the following months, the divorce was finalized. Angela received far less than she had expected because of her deception and misuse of marital assets. Ryan lost both his reputation and his relationship. The life they had built on lies fell apart. But the hardest part wasn't losing my marriage. It was deciding what to do about Kian. One afternoon, I met him at the park. He ran toward me with the same smile he had always had. Dad! He hugged me tightly. In that moment, I realized something. DNA can tell you who helped create a child. Cannot measure who stayed up during nightmares. Who taught him to ride a bike. Who cheered at every baseball game. Who loved him without conditions. I knelt beside him. No matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. He smiled. I know, Dad. Those 3 words healed a part of my heart that I thought was gone forever. Today, I still live in Chicago. I rebuilt my life. My company is stronger than ever. More importantly, so am I. Looking back, I don't hate Angela or Ryan anymore. Hatred only gives power to the people who hurt you. Instead, I chose peace. Because the greatest revenge isn't destroying the people who betrayed you. It's building a life so honest and fulfilling that their lies can never define your future. And every time I look at Kian, I remember one simple truth. Being a father isn't about sharing DNA. It's about showing up every single day with love. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more emotional revenge stories.